Welcome to my favorite subject, social engineering. We are going to talk about what social engineering is, why it works, how to defend against it, and see some tools and software that have been developed for the ethical hacker. There is a lot of fun stuff in this module, so let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome to the next lecture in this section. We are going to be talking about what social engineering is. Social engineering is the method of persuading, tricking, conning, or otherwise getting your target to reveal sensitive information. So you're going to be getting them to do something that is, not really going to be in their best interest, but they are going to be happily helping you along the way. And so there are a lot of people who actually use this quite often in a lot of their different tactics for hacking. Attackers will often find that social engineering is far easier than trying to crack a firewall or a network security appliance. And generally the rule of thumb is for most ethical hackers and cybersecurity experts is the people are the weakest link in the chain. If a company has not trained their staff in social engineering techniques, then they're just asking to be on the front page of the New York Times as the latest data breach victim. The only real way to mitigate social engineering attacks is to train your employees. And the worst part about social engineering attacks is that most people aren't even aware that there even was one. Otherwise, they would have said something or done something in the midst of being socially engineered. While they're on that phone call giving up information to somebody, they would have raised a flag and said, okay, this was not okay. As soon as they hang up, they just go about their day like they were helpful, they did their job, everything was fine. Social engineering works because it targets people's built-in behaviors and tendencies. A sense of obligation, for example. Attackers will take advantage of people in this way, knowing they feel like they have to do their job, they need to do their job correctly. Another big one is trust. People want to trust others. People are usually going to trust people when they know the correct vocabulary and the correct terminology. If someone just gets fired and they're disgruntled, they would be able to wreak havoc. And I'm pretty sure there's some pretty big examples of this, and I'm going to pull some of these examples up later to show you how these kinds of things worked and how companies just got totally screwed because they weren't properly defending themselves against social engineering attacks. If you see someone dressed in a certain way, you're going to instinctively trust them. The US military, when you approach any one of their bases in uniform, still ask for your ID because they know these kinds of social engineering attacks could work. Even if you're dressed as a lieutenant colonel and you outrank the person at the gate has to see their ID or they won't let him in. Otherwise, anybody can go and order a uniform. They can order all the different things that go along with the uniform, get the appropriate car, get fake plates. But if they don't have that ID and that ID doesn't pass, they're not getting in. Another reason this works is there are insufficient security policies on how information can get communicated or what to do when someone calls in and asks for information or emails and asks for information. Social engineers prey on people not having the correct training, and the biggest weakness in people is usually ignorance. People just don't know that someone could be calling in or sending them an email and they don't have their best interests at heart. Social engineering at its nature is hard to detect via technology because it's anti-technology. It's going against all of the different safeguards and controls that you've put in, and it is going after the human element. And humans, we make a lot of mistakes, especially when we think we're doing a good job. A regular attack against an intrusion detection system, a firewall, or any sort of technology-based asset is going to have a log file or some sort of detection log. People don't. People aren't recording all of their different phone calls and then sending those phone calls back up to their manager to have an assessment actually done. People can spoof caller IDs. There's so many different ways that a social engineer can actually make this stuff work. And it makes it very, very hard to detect, which is why it's still a very, very big problem. Hey guys, and welcome to the lecture on phishing and spear phishing. We've talked about social engineering and the different types of methods and tools and different kinds of things that people use as social engineers, the type of tactics and how they approach things. And now we're going to talk about one of the most common forms of social engineering, phishing. and it's not spelled with an F, it is PH. What is phishing? What is the history of phishing, types of phishing, examples, and what we can do? Phishing is the criminal act of attempting to acquire sensitive, personal, private, confidential, any kind of secret information such as usernames, passwords, credit cards, bank account, basically anything you don't want the bad guys to have, any of your private information, by masquerading as somebody trustworthy, a friend of yours, an acquaintance, a relative, a coworker. It is a targeted attack. It was actually first documented in 1987. It was first called phishing in 1996, and then by 2005, almost $1 billion had been impacted by phishing. By 2007, it's $3.5 billion, yada, yada, yada. Now it's one of the most common forms of hacks, period. It causes malware, it causes crypto locker, it causes so many different types of infections and different results that it's really difficult to kind of pin down on one sort of thing. And a lot of different criminal organizations end up using phishing as their main mode of getting the malware or the payload, whatever it is, to you. And they're ultimately successful most of the time. They will pretend to be somebody with some sort of sense of urgency, like, yes, hello, Grandma Josephine? Yes, hi. My name is Officer Johnson from the Texas State Sheriff's Department, and we have your son. He's actually been arrested for something, and he asked us to give you a call to potentially make bail. No, you can't actually speak with him, blah, 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 blah. These types of scams happen all the time. They create a false sense of urgency. They call you on the phone. Those types of scams are usually phone call based. The ones over email, it's a million different things. One common thing is they'll manipulate Google. Instead of using 2 O's, they'll use zeros to make a link look good, to get you to click on something. Basically, unless you know the person, don't open the email. Just a FYI. They'll send you an email that looks like it's from a reputable source. Even a friend of mine and I were looking at some of the data, and we were able to get executives within the last 30 days to click on an email 90% of the time or more, even though they were just told not to do that, because the email said, your company, it was from like glassdoor.com, your company has been reported in a sexual harassment lawsuit and in the news, blah, blah, blah. And every executive clicked on the dang thing. Fake login sites that are made to look like Facebook or Yahoo or Yelp or bank accounts, or it's like, hey, your debit card number has been reset for Bank of America. I'd be like, well, I don't have Bank of America. Huh, that's weird. Well, that's not weird. That's the whole point. They're sending you a URL, a link to get you to click and put your credentials in. It's not going to work, but they'll now have your credentials and they can log in and take your money. People don't just make those spam emails for fun. There's a purpose to them. Basically, the only response that anyone can have is training. The law doesn't keep up with current trends. The ability to prosecute and track these criminals is almost nothing. The detectives and people who end up getting put in charge of these types of things, they're working on murders and like actual theft in person that are hard enough to solve, let alone digital theft, where tracking down those people and the amount of people that have the skills are so backlogged. Sometimes these forensics labs that do the network audits and pen tests and these types of things, these guys are a year backed out. There is a severe shortage of people with forensic skills and in the law enforcement fields. My goodness, it's ridiculous. It really is. Typically, phishing email messages and websites are the most common. Phone calls happen very seldomly, but those times it means the social engineer is going to have to attack you one-on-one. With email messages, it can be a really large net with a really large amount of messages targeting a larger amount of people, and that's definitely where the money is for them, because this is purely a money-motivated thing. They're only after it to get your identity to then steal money, or to steal money directly. And if they can socially engineer their way into getting you to install ransomware, CryptoLocker and these different variants, then they can hold your stuff for hostage and then you pay money. And that's actually proven to be one of the more common things recently because it's such a fast turnaround and they don't have to steal anyone's identity to do it. They'll gather information in the recon phase of their attack by going on social networking sites, Facebook, LinkedIn. They'll find your name, your date of birth, where you live, where you work, what you're interested in, your hobbies, your skills. If you work for a 5,000 person company, I could pretend to be Bob from HR and then call you back later and, this is Cindy from accounting. Yes, we're having a problem with your paperwork. Like, you can do a million different things when they don't know the person that they're talking to, but you know the internal jargon, you know all the different little things that are going to make them feel comfortable in talking to you on the phone. And if you are confident on the phone, or you are confident over email, you can get people to do all sorts of stuff. I was actually at my doctor's the other day getting a refill on a prescription, and my doctor actually stopped and he goes, oh yeah, my next door neighbor runs a construction company and he just had $150,000 wired out of his account because someone broke into her email, and instead of doing some virus or crazy crap, they figured out that they could have his business account wire money out their bank, and all they had to do was send an email to the bank because they went and looked through all the guy's previous emails to learn how he talked, to learn what relationships he had, and jackpot, he's been emailing his commercial bank about moving money about some sort of a construction project. So they were able to wire $150,000 to some vendor that didn't exist, and bam, make off with $150,000. Well, that's number one. You shouldn't be able to email your bank. I mean, anybody gets a hold of your email address and you're toast. You should be building in inconvenience into your life a little bit, especially when it comes to money. That's why having the same password is a bad idea. It allows everyone to get access to everything you have in one fell swoop. Having two-factor authentication everywhere, that kind of stuff. You have to build in inconvenience into your life, otherwise one key opens it all. There's link manipulation is another type of phishing attacks. They'll use a form of deception that makes a link look legitimate, whether the text on top looks right but the URL on bottom is actually not correct, or the URL is misspelled just a tad and you don't notice it because it's quick, because an I looks like an L, that kind of thing. The phone call version is also often called voice phishing. Voice phishing is used, you can steal credit card numbers or get other stuff, anything over the phone. Examples on how to mitigate this kind of thing. The first question you have to ask is, do I know this person? Have I met them in person? Am I expecting an email from this person? Do they know me? Should I know them? A large amount of phishing emails don't have everything just perfect, or they'll have mistaken grammar, or they'll have just something will be odd. Ask people on Facebook, ask people at work, is this normal? Did I see this right? I mean, it wouldn't be a really good idea to ask your boss every single time you sent an email, is like, is this you? Is this really you? Someone not stealing your identity? They're going to get kind of pissed. But be skeptical. Another variant is you'll get an email from Verizon Wireless, but if you look at the return address, it's myverizonemail.com. It'll be some domain name that has Verizon in the name, or it'll be something close, but it isn't exactly correct. You got to pay attention for those kinds of things and make sure that they're resolving to the exact place that they say they are, and that requires people paying more attention. Things aren't going to become easier everywhere. We've already got televisions in our refrigerators. We've got robot vacuums. You can put up with a little bit of proofreading when it comes to email.